All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting close to that happy hour time, the time where we start another committee meeting. And I'll count in our administration in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good evening, everyone. Oh, wait, good day. Whoa, I'm pulling an O'Connor over here. Well, it's to quote the great Grant Prairie, because it's on, it's on. So today, our committee meetings are on. This is the Community Services Committee agenda meeting. And I am your chair, Councillor Chris Thiessen. I'm joined by my council committee colleagues, Wendy Bosch, Grant Prairie, and Mayor Jackie Clayton is online. So we'll call this meeting to order. We have 2 delegations that signed up to present to council today. One is online, one is in person, taking advantage of the new non-COVID rules. Awesome. But we will start online first. And to that effect, we have a presentation from STARS, and I believe Glenda Farndon is here. There she is. Hi, Glenda. How are you doing today?
Great, thank you.
Awesome.
Pleasure to see y'all.
All right, so I'll just let you take it away. We did receive your package, just sort of the priorities that were laid out and sort of the plan of action for STARS going forward. And now we're just looking to hear from you to tell us all about it.
Okay, thank you so much. It's my pleasure to bring you another presentation and an update. We would have liked to be there in person, but at the same time, I really wanted to have this opportunity for John Gauguin to join us as well. So for new council members, my name is Glenda Farndon. I'm the Senior Municipal Relations Liaison for STARS. So I work with municipalities, rural and urban, across the entire province of Alberta and into northeastern BC. And John Gauguin?
Good morning, everybody, Mayor, Council. I am a director. As per earlier conversations with Council, Provincial Director for STARS Air Ambulance for Northern and Central Operations, as well as into Northeastern British Columbia. Pleasure to have this time with you today.
I'm happy to have you here too, John. Thanks.
Thank you. So I will just share my screen. So are you able to see that? Critical care anywhere?
Yeah, we see it, and we have it in our package as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So this presentation will include updated information. Some of it has been previously presented to the previous council, but for the benefit of the new council members, I felt it's very important that we give a very solid overview of STARS and the exciting new happenings which help enhance STARS' ability to provide critical care anywhere. The COVID-19 pandemic continues, and we remain under strict protocol to protect our operations. Our transport physicians continue to provide critical care guidance on airway management, ventilation, and resuscitation procedures. And we continue to see a rise in stress-related types of missions like heart attack, stroke, drug overdose, with approximately 1 in 5 missions still being COVID-related. John, could you please enlighten us on the positive work happening behind the scenes in the STARS Emergency Link Center?
Certainly, Glenda. So the STARS Emergency Link Center is our 24/7, 365 link, not only for helicopter operations, but really to all of the emergency resources available in the province of Alberta and into northeastern British Columbia. Obviously, with Council, you're very familiar with GIS mapping. It's something that our STARS Emergency Link Center has on board. They are the behind-the-scenes coordinators for all of the flights that go on really across the entire STARS organization. And they have the ability to connect with all emergency responders, including search and rescue and external operations such as the RCMP, really anybody that we would need to talk to during the course of any type of mission, be it scene call, which is physically landing somewhere other than a hospital, or what we refer to as an IFT or interfacility transport, which would occur at a rural hospital outside, obviously, the city of Grande Prairie. We receive about 30 to 35,000 calls at the STARS Emergency Link Center each year. What does that mean? So for a community where STARS would actually physically fly to that community about 100 times, we're actually speaking to men and women, doctors, physicians, EMS practitioners in that community about 1,000 times. So they are our eyes and ears, not for every single call. We don't go on every call they get, obviously, but they are there for our teams, and they're able, most importantly, to connect STARS transport physicians and our aeromedical crew to both rural physicians and EMS practitioners coming into the city of Grande Prairie, which will bring me to the next slide, please. So we started a real interesting initiative with our STARS transport doctors. So in-house, we have about 100 transport physicians who work with STARS. They're a blend of anesthesiologists, intensive care physicians, as well as emergency physicians. And in the past year, we have actually had a doctor in-house at the STARS Emergency Link Center in real time. And they've been able to quarterback behind the scenes for all the calls that come into the STARS Emergency Link Center. And moving into late 22, 2023, this is likely something that we'll have for daytime operations 365 days a year. It's proven invaluable for us. I still fly with STARS. I've been flying with them for about 25 years. And we just had a call a couple of weeks ago where the STARS transport physician was listening to the information coming in from our team, coming inbound from Grande Prairie to Edmonton, recognized during the conversation with the nurse paramedic combination in the back that this patient was in need of not just the emergency ward at the U of A, but direct to OR, and they were able to quarterback that information behind the scenes. And the team basically landed on the roof from their flight from Grande Prairie and went directly into the OR suite, and the outcome was a fantastic outcome for the patient. So we know that having these TPs or transport physicians on site is invaluable, and we'll continue with this pilot project likely into 22, 23, and likely make it something that's part of our organization-wide criteria moving forward. Glenda.
Thank you. The pandemic has impacted our revenue in all funding areas. The long-awaited HEMS review released by the Government of Alberta posed several recommendations regarding STARS, but these remain only recommendations, as they have indicated that they will continue with consultations before any final decisions are made. So in the meantime, they have extended the 20% government funding for STARS this year. This is the same amount of funding that we have received since 2010. The pandemic has forced us to think outside the box and be proactive. And we identified efficiencies as well as had to downsize some staff members in affected areas. The STARS lottery remains our single largest funding source. And so despite the pandemic, we went ahead with the lottery, and Albertans continue to stand by our side. The 2022 lottery is fast underway, and the deadline is March 23rd. Our calendar campaign has significantly decreased with the inability to travel to rural communities, and many municipal offices across Alberta offered to help. There's an unforeseeable future for our mainstay events. The Grande Prairie Hangar Dance has been canceled for the second year. We cannot exist without community support. So we continue to be grateful to many rural communities that host online 50/50s and raffles, and we also developed a safe online multi-provincial radiothon. Let's have a look at a 5-year mission overview for the City of Grande Prairie and the immediate areas within the County of Grande Prairie. We continue to see mission rates increasing across the entire province, and this is also the case within the city and the county. These include critical transfers that have almost doubled from last year, from the previous years at the GPRH and the previous QE2 hospitals. Overall, the City of Grande Prairie sees an annual average of approximately 19 missions per year. But when you combine this with the local county areas, we see approximately 52 missions within our immediate area. And in 2022 so far, 12 missions have been flown, as there were 2 also on the weekend that were not included in these statistics. Everyone travels, commutes for work or recreation, and traveling into neighboring municipalities as well. Emergencies do not always happen close to home. So when we look at neighbors helping neighbors and comparing the same 5-year time frame, now we see from 258 local area missions. Now we see that the mission rate triples. Any of these missions may include a Grande Prairie resident as well. We have another exciting new project in the works to help identify where residents were flown by STARS, whether it's right here at home or multi-provincially. So John, could you please tell us about the new postal code identity project?
Yeah, I certainly can, Glenda. First and foremost, I want to give Glenda full props for coming up with the concept behind this. So as many of you know, data is king. And over the many years that we've been working with municipalities as council, you often have to speak to your residents and your constituents about why you would be giving money to an organization like STARS. So what we really wanted to do was we wanted to get some data behind some of the narrative that we share. And this project has ended up being something that I really just, I can't believe how much fun and how engaging it's been and insightful. So what you're looking at here right now is an actual map of the city of Grande Prairie. And the dots that you see here are not just representative of a patient, but in many cases, there are multiple patients in this postal code. So what we found when we mined the data from 1985 to 2020 is that 321 residents of the city of Grande Prairie, not the county, but this is just the city of Grande Prairie, have been flown with STARS since its inception. Of those, 261 were flown to the QE2 hospital, which means that maybe a few of them might have been picked up right around the city, but for the vast majority of those residents, they were elsewhere. Skiing, traveling, hunting, skidooing, or in another province. And one of the other interesting things that we found is 60 of the residents of Grande Prairie were flown from another base, and 28 of those residents were actually flown before the Grande Prairie base was even incorporated into the city. So the funds that you've been giving our organization not just touch, obviously, the entire province, but all of these residents of your community. It tells just an incredible narrative that in some way, shape, or form, perhaps somebody in your community has flown with our organization since 1985. Glenda?
Thank you. So this is testament to the value of our partnership, providing Grande Prairie residents with access to STARS, whether it's in their daily travels or even across Western Canada. It was a massive undertaking, the $138 million fleet campaign. It seemed almost impossible, and of course not knowing at the time that we were also amid a global pandemic. Federal, provincial, and municipal governments have embraced the vision of a new fleet for the future. We thank you, City of Grande Prairie, for your $100,000 investment in our locally based H145. We are humbled at the generosity of so many individuals, corporate, and municipal donors that we have reached the initial fundraising goal to complete the campaign. So this is just very recent news, and we have completed this campaign. Given the increasing mission volumes that we've seen the past 2 years, STARS also decided last year that we would purchase a 10th helicopter to take advantage of the pricing offered through our initial contract with Airbus. And so the anticipated proceeds that were shown here on the $15 million from the previous retiring fleet could generate up to $15 million, of course, dependent on market value and the rate of the US dollar. And these funds will be attributed towards the 10th helicopter. The 10th helicopter is due to arrive sometime in late summer and will go into service later this year. This H145, helicopter that you see here outperforms the BK-117s. It has a unique Fenestron tail that you see completely enclosed, increased maneuverability, decreased noise and vibration. John, as a long-standing STARS pilot of over 20 years, your vast experience and knowledge will please help us to enlighten us on the immense breakthrough technologies of this new aircraft.
Thanks, Glenda. Yeah, so I got to take the opportunity to sit in this aircraft for a couple of hours in Grande Prairie when I was there last week. My simulation training starts in May down in Grande Prairie, Texas. So we'll be visiting Grande Prairie, Alberta, and then our training is going to be down in Grande Prairie, Texas. So really exciting. This aircraft, again, is state-of-the-art, both inside the cockpit and in the back. From an aviation standpoint, it exceeds in so many ways the BK-117, which was really created in the early 80s. Fenestron tail is obviously not only quieter, but from a safety standpoint and having people, operating around the back of the aircraft, considerably, a safer environment per se. The aircraft will have about 30 additional, minutes of fuel, which means we'll basically be able to fly an additional 60 nautical miles. Certainly for the Grande Prairie team flying into Edmonton, which is fairly frequent, about 1 in 5 or 1 in 4 trips that the Grande Prairie base does is in fact into a trauma center in Edmonton. Certainly value added for sure. And the Grande Prairie and Calgary bases, because of their operations in the mountain, will receive the 5-bladed system initially, and then the rest of the fleet will be transitioned into the 5-blade from a 4-blade. What does that mean to the general person? More lift capability, a little bit more speed, and single engine performance will be one of the leading aircraft in the world. So in the highly unlikely event that we lose an engine, either coming into land or flying through the mountains at night down into Jasper, Valemont, so on and so forth, it gives us that ability to fly out of the mountains on one engine, and it's certainly a game changer from a safety standpoint for the aviation team. Next slide, I'll talk about the back. My wife will be happy that I acknowledge I put my ego in check frequently. I personally, having been with STARS for 20 years, know that the magic really does happen in the back with the critical care nurse, critical care paramedic, and transport physician oversight team. This is where our real special work occurs. This aircraft, a little bit bigger in the back. Everything is state-of-the-art from a lighting standpoint, heating standpoint, multiple heaters. All the stretcher and the stretcher bridge, which is what you see that goes up and over the patient's feet, will carry all the equipment that you would essentially find in an ICU or an emergency room. Some pretty phenomenal things on board this aircraft. It actually does have Wi-Fi and satellite capability. So all of the medical equipment on board this helicopter is actually able to communicate in real time using 3, 4, and 5G, as well as satellite, to a transport physician and our STARS Emergency Link Center. We're also initiating a body cam program and an interior camera program. So our doctors will be able in real time to not only communicate with our teams in the back, but get up-to-date, second-by-second information on how the patients are doing based on all the instrumentation that's hooked up to that patient. It's really going to be a real game changer for us. So much so that operating room suites, like I spoke to earlier, will actually be able to get real-time updates from our aeromedical crew 30 minutes before we even land at a hospital, and be able to be prepared and monitor in real time what's going on with the patient as the patient rolls through the door. Glenda, back to you.
Thank you. We celebrate the City of Grande Prairie as a provincial, regional, and urban leader. Thank you for your support of the QE2 helipad project at the previous QE2 hospital. You were the first municipality in STARS history to receive a $500,000 logo unveiling at the 2014 Municipal Government Day. You were the first municipality to achieve the $1 million in support. We look forward to another City of Grande Prairie logo unveiling very soon, date to be announced. You are the first urban municipality to join many rural municipalities with your generous $100,000 investment in our local H145. We'd like to extend special thanks to Mayor Clayton as well for her participation in the recently released documentary that celebrates 15 years of serving northern residents. We are very grateful to TELUS for their donation of this filming. To view it, if you haven't already seen it, you may Google STARS Grande Prairie YouTube, and on April 1st, TELUS will be airing it as well on TELUS Optic TV. STARS was born out of necessity. We've been serving Albertans since 1985. More than 45,000 missions have been flown and no cost to our patients. We thank you, City of Grande Prairie, for your life-saving partnership with us since the very beginning of STARS Grande Prairie. Thank you for your continued commitments of support, pledged for $50,000 for our operations through 2023, as well as your annual gift in kind of our local base property taxes that you have provided for us every year, and it directly supports our Grande Prairie base operations. A life is saved every day, and it's partnerships that make this possible. You are STAR's reason for being, and we thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for that excellent presentation, Glenda and John. Great team effort there, and I like the chip in from the puppy earlier as well. So I do have a few questions in the queue right now. We'll start with Councillor O'Connor. We'll move on to Councillor Bosch and then Councillor Burke.
Thank you very much for that presentation, and I just want to give a thanks, John and Glenda, for recognizing that it's not just residents outside of Grande Prairie, it's residents inside Grande Prairie. And I, for one, in 2012, had a major motorcycle accident. If it wasn't for STARS, I would not be here.
Thank you for that, and thanks for keeping Mike here, Stars. We appreciate you. We'll move on to Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. Thank you, Glenda and John. Huge advocate for STARS. I myself support them. Great work. I just have a couple of questions just because I just want to know, and maybe other people want to know. You said you had over 31,000 requests every year. That's for Alberta, right?
That would be for Alberta and parts of Saskatchewan, yes.
Okay. So my question is, out of these requests, I know weather plays a huge factor on whether you can fly or not. What is the percentage of those requests that are undoable by STARS?
That's a great question. I would say that each base has different challenges from a weather standpoint. We turn down approximately 26% of calls annually for weather. So what that means is ceilings below 1,000 feet, visibilities at nighttime below 3 miles, or visibility in the mountains below 5 miles. The really interesting thing that we started to do, particularly in the Grande Prairie region, of which we've had 3 this past week, is, as I mentioned in the back is where I think the magic sauce is. You know, you've got a critical care medic, critical care nurse with transport oversight and the support of the STARS Emergency Link Center. And what we're moving into and have been moving into in the Grande Prairie base as a bit of a beta tester is when the helicopter can't go, that doesn't mean that that critical care resource for your surrounding community shouldn't be able to go. In this past week, we've gone on fixed wing. So we've partnered with our allies at Alberta Health Services, and our critical care team has uploaded onto the fixed wing to bring 3 separate patients from Grande Prairie into the hospitals in Edmonton. We've been also partnering with AHS Ground when the helicopter can't go for any reason. Again, there's no real reason why our team shouldn't be able to go, so they've been picked up by ground ambulance, and that's something we have done 9 times in the past year. And moving forward, this is going to be a posture that we'll get into every day. So if we don't have a helicopter for the purposes of weather, or if the helicopter is in fact in Edmonton and night crew is coming on and we only have 1 helicopter on base, or there's maintenance, we're going to begin to go into a posture where the helicopter is not always the answer. It's the team in the back, and how do we work with our allies to get them where they need to go.
Awesome, John. You answered my subsequent questions even before I asked. That was awesome. So can you bring those numbers down to our area? Are you able to do that? Like how many trips and then how many you can't service and then the other options that you provide?
Glenda, can you remind me of the numbers for the Grande Prairie region last year, or the base numbers? Because I know that we fly in and around 500 missions a year out of Grande Prairie. So of those, we would turn down in and around 25%. We're always looking at the why. So Grande Prairie, as you can imagine, is a very unique region from a weather standpoint. We're in a bowl, and fog is paramount, particularly a challenge in the fall and in late winter. We've started to partner with NAV Canada and other oil companies. One of the great things about oil companies is they tend to want to know what the weather is for other reasons, and we started to partner with them to see if we can link into their weather stations to get better weather. And we're also working with Transport Canada right now. Really, the only weather we can look at is Peace River, Grande Prairie, and Whitecourt, and Slave Lake. That's really all that we have. So we're trying, as we run into these weather challenges in Grande Prairie in particular, to just use the technologies that are emerging. And lots of talk earlier today about emerging technologies to better make a plan on what weather we might encounter on a mission. But it's in and around 25% from a helicopter standpoint that we have to turn down weather, which is on par with the rest of the 5 provinces or the rest of the bases across the other 3 provinces.
Okay, that's very interesting. And then my last question is the increase was, as Glenda had said, was almost double in 2021. What was that attributed to, would you say, as far as the transfers?
Well, 2021 is likely going to go down as the busiest year in STAR's history, which is sad. As most of you know, we've been dealing with COVID for the past 25 months. What we see as first response emergency practitioners is the downstream effect of COVID. Unfortunately, with the challenges that people have been going through, mental illness, violence, domestic violence, suicides, overdoses, all of those things have become a quiet sixth wave of what COVID is bringing to all of our communities. And unfortunately, STARS is seeing that. Don't want to get into the details, but we are definitely seeing a rise in criminal behavior and violent downstream calls for our organization. And it's a remarkable statistic, because when you look at how little people were traveling and how high our call volume was, particularly for interfacility overdoses and violence calls, it's going to go down as a pretty sad and quite remarkable year.
That's true. Yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly. So thank you for answering all those questions. Great job.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Councillor Bosch. I have Councillor Berg still in the queue.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. And thank you, Glenda and John, for all the great work that you do. So these are just more curiosity questions, and you may have answered this one already. Have we taken delivery on the H145 yet? And if not, when is it arriving?
Glenda?
Due to arrive here in the next few weeks. So we did have one come up for training here just last week, as John had mentioned, and we're trying to, because of COVID delays, so we're trying to finalize all of the pilot training as well, and John's going to be going down in May, and I think by the end of May, we are hopeful that all pilot training will be done. We're still on schedule to be fully H145 operational across all 6 bases by June or July of this year, and then the 10th helicopter to follow in late summer.
Okay, thank you. And then I do follow STARS on Twitter, and I love it. Anytime I hear the helicopter fly over my house, I'm always curious to see where they've been responding to. And I noticed actually for a short period, we had 2 helicopters flying out, but as I check Twitter now, I just see Star 5 for Grande Prairie. Do we still have 2, and is the long-term plan for 1 or 2?
John?
Great question. Yeah, great question. So the bases are aligned. So in Grande Prairie specifically, you'll see Star 5 or Star 6. So Star 5 is the primary mission aircraft. Star 6 would be any time a second aircraft gets launched out of Grande Prairie, either for training or for a second mission. So day crew is gone on a call, another call comes in, we have a second aircraft on base, they would go out of Star 6 medevac. What you're going to see in the next few weeks is we actually have an H145 in-house doing air medical crew training, and then at nighttime, the pilots are going up. We had a sweet letter from a lady, Marilyn in Grande Prairie, and she was wondering why the helicopter, when they looked online, it looked like a rotor blade. And the actual team was out doing all the approaches that are available at the Grande Prairie Airport. And when you actually look at it online, it looks like a helicopter rotor blade. So it was a really neat interaction. But we will have 1 aircraft obviously on site all times. The second aircraft, to Glenda's point, will be based on aircraft availability. We do a lot of extra training for mountain night training in Grande Prairie, which means we'll have 2 aircraft on site. And from a strategic standpoint, the second aircraft in Alberta will likely be located in Edmonton or Grande Prairie. Again, 1 at all times, 2 sometimes.
Great, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Councillor Berg. I'm looking around. I don't see any other hands going up, but I would like to note that you can tell that Glenda's really excited about the Airbus. She's postering it right behind her in our wall and the picture on the screen. So thank you so much for being in here. I did have one final question. Through your presentation, I noticed that it said that unforeseeable future for events. Now, I know the STARS Hangar Dance is usually a very well attended and a very excellent fundraiser for STARS. And it's one of the highlights of, I think, a large members of the council and in the community to go and attend. I know it's unforeseen, but do you have plans to bring the Hangar Dance back in light of all the COVID stuff now coming to an end?
There is discussions we'll be having now with our committee, to determine, in this new phase of what will events look like. We are currently working on the signature event out of the PSAC Gala out of Calgary as well. So they have determined to go ahead and try it again. So once we have the discussions with our local committee, nothing's been decided yet. We're taking one step at a time as we try to progress. Currently, right now, we are just even looking at what will a Grande Prairie H145 event rollout look like, and we're planning that for mid-May. So we will use that, I think, as our initial stepping stone to seeing what else we can determine for our area.
Awesome. That's so great. And time hopefully is on our side, and the ability to get together again will be as well. Just a quick question. Councillor Boss leaned over. She wants to know if she can still purchase STARS calendars online.
I believe, yes, you can still purchase calendars. You can go to starscalendar.ca and see either that, or I have a calendar for you as well.
Oh, well, don't offer. I think she's willing to pay. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Glenda and John. Always great to see you. Nice to meet you here today, John, and happy flying. I can't wait to see that new chopper up in the air, and for all the great work you do. Thanks again.
Thank you very much. Mayor, Council, thank you.
Awesome. So now we'll move right along to our second delegation. She's been ever so patient here. She's running up to the front right now. Here to present on behalf of the Grande Prairie Public Library, we have Miss Deb Kreiderman. Welcome, Deb. How are you doing today?
Well, my face is back. Hope I don't have blueberries in my teeth.
Looks good.
Yeah? Okay, good. Not sure where the best place to put this is. Good morning, Community Services Committee, and thank you for the opportunity to share some news about what's happening over at the library. I know I was just here last month, so I will not repeat that stuff, but I have some other things to tell you. There's always stories over there. I'm happy to report that the use of the library has risen significantly as we work our way out of the pandemic. Although we were closed for 4 months of 2021 and at reduced capacity with additional restrictions for the remainder of the year, we still had more than 100,000 visitors to the library. Since mid-February of this year, we're regularly seeing over 500 people a day. And just this past Friday, which was a short day, we're only open till 6 o'clock on Fridays, we had 592 people. So things are coming back. The work of the Grande Prairie Public Library supports economic growth, helps expand employment opportunities, helps make life better for Grande Prairie residents. GPPL has positively impacted residents from all walks of lives in many lasting ways, from helping parents encourage a lifelong love of learning to their children, to inspiring students to be successful at school and beyond, to lighting the way for job seekers on their path to employment and supporting small business owners to reach their dreams. Public libraries have a wide reach across our province, with more than 1.4 million Albertans that are public library users in over 90% of Alberta municipalities that offer public library services to their communities. In a typical year, which I haven't seen in a long time, but in a typical year, libraries in Alberta are visited over 20 million times and circulate over 35 million items and offer many tens of thousands of enriching programs for all ages. Public libraries are vital and welcoming community hubs that connect, inform, inspire, and help us build a stronger Alberta together by creating opportunities for everyone. GPPL strengthens our economy by enabling job seekers to explore and find career opportunities and market their skills to employers, by offering high-quality training and professional learning, allowing residents to develop new skills and competencies relevant to their evolving economy, by assisting entrepreneurs with business startup information, resources, and advice, and investing in crucial early literacy programs and collections that prepare children for school success, supporting students of all ages to excel, graduate, and contribute to our shared well-being. GPPL supports innovation by addressing the digital divide specifically by providing high-speed internet and access to computers to thousands of hours per year, frequently by residents who have limited or no online access at home. So for snow removal and when they have to fill out the form, they can come to the library. We can help them through that. We've got that. Glad I was here for that. Connecting residents with a vast array of digital resources, including online classes, ebooks, databases, and relevant to an impressive variety of interests and industries. Providing foundational literacy training and making IT expertise, digital labs, audio and video recording studios, and classes on topics such as 3D modeling, podcasting, coding are all widely available. These are all resources that would otherwise not be regularly available to many area residents. Working as a network across Alberta to provide all Albertans, wherever they live, with access to quality information, knowledge, technology, and expertise. So GPPL also welcomes and supports newcomers, and they do that by facilitating literacy and English language learning support, including making language learning accessible and creating opportunities for communities to connect through conversation circles. Offering digital literacy programs to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to thrive, and providing connections to agencies and businesses in our community. GPPL creates a better place for residents to raise their families, and that's done by creating welcoming spaces for human connection, combating social isolation, and promoting cross-cultural understanding. Supporting seniors with outreach services, materials in accessible formats like large print or audiobooks, and offering life-enriching programs for them. Fostering lifelong learning and literacy in all forms, including print, financial, physical literacy, media literacy, and digital literacies. And by supporting our most vulnerable people in our society by working with all agencies to increase access to mental health resources, housing services, offering constructive options for those who are struggling with housing, food insecurity, and other issues. So we see our role as mindfully putting communities back together after having been apart for 2 years. This is part that Mike's going to know all about this. Every month at our board meetings, I like to share a few comments from our patrons. We have a story tracker. We keep track of any comments patrons make. So I'd like to share a few here. This one was actually from a staff member. She popped it into the story tracker. And she said, I just had the nicest encounter with a gentleman who referred to the library as the most non-judgmental place in town and has expressed his appreciation for the way we treat the unhoused population. He also shouted out to our awesome security guards and said that he really enjoys talking to them, especially Lakinder. So that's been passed on to Lakinder's boss. A new patron was thankful for the library and the little free pantry. She had just left her husband and had nothing as she was trying to start her new life. She said that was the one thing in her life that had turned her whole week around. Another patron signed up for a new library card and asked how much it cost and was very surprised to find out that it was free. We'll be expecting you to come pick up your, yeah, okay, good. She said her luck had finally turned around and that she hadn't been having a good month before that. Another woman who cares for a few extra children during the school break stopped by the children's desk to express her appreciation that we're open. She's very grateful to bring the small group to the outing, on an outing to the library that day. She said it's a reprieve from the cold and she can always rely on the children having a good time there. This is time last year, when she mentioned the comment, this time last year, the library wasn't open and she missed being able to come here with them. She says she always feels safe coming to the library. Another woman with, she has 3 children, and her middle child participated in the summer reading game last year after having ended the school year with his reading level below grade level. When he returned in the fall, his reading level, was at above grade level. So his mom attributes that to his participation in the summer reading game. Another comment was from a patron. She said, gender neutral said, I don't know the gender, said that they are in the middle of their master's education and that GPPL has played a critical role in helping me seek the books I need for my research. I love you guys. You're so helpful and have such great service. Another patron came to thank us for all our help regarding their citizenship test. He was very, very thankful for the help that Jill had given him. 2 teen volunteers were going on and on about how Grande Prairie Public Library is their second home and their happy place. They were also really happy to have become friends And that friendship it was the result of them both volunteering at the library. Otherwise, they lived opposite ends of the city and they would otherwise not have met. Another patron approached the information desk to pass on how proud she was that we have a little free little free pantry and a warming wall. She thinks it's a wonderful thing that we do for our community and thanked us for the amazing work we do. And finally, I'll wrap up our patron comments with a patron who said, "Thank you to the GPPL staff for being there at a very dark time in my life. Your concern for my safety is part of the reason I'm alive today." So that ends that part. As you know, we currently have one board vacancy on our board. And in the past, we've had a member of the MD of Greenview sitting in that position. Now that they have their own library board, we have the opportunity to change the makeup of our library board a little bit. And that has presented itself. And the board was asked for their input and indicated that they would like to have a member of the County of Grande Prairie Council sit on the board. And after inquiring with the county, they said that they do accept this invitation. And I know this will take some work from admin and council, et cetera, et cetera. So I have included the letter that we sent to county, passed that out to you earlier today. And finally, I want to thank you for your continued support of the library. We really do appreciate that over there. If you have any questions, I'm all yours.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Ms. Kreiderman. Yeah, very, very quick and lots of points to cover and lots of great stories in there. So I appreciate it.
Felt long to me, like I was rambling.
It was about 3 minutes long, but I'm pretty lenient when it comes to delegations typically. So it's all on the chair here. So I did have a question from Councillor Bosch, and I will scan, and I see no other questions. So Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. Thanks, Deb, for coming in. Always nice to see you. I just have a question. You said 100,000 people for 2021. Mm-hmm. What were your numbers pre-COVID? And then you had 113,000 for 2021 for your website. Oh. So what were those, like, were they flip-flopped somewhat? Is there an increase in website traffic pre-COVID to now and visitors to now? What were those numbers looking like prior to this?
I don't know about the website. I'll be honest, I don't know. Our visits in person are down. Like, we're closer to about 700 people a day, 650 to 700 people a day. So we're getting closer to that. But yeah, it was down a lot with being closed and then being at 1/3 capacity. And
right.
Yeah. And
so what was your total in 2018, 2017?
Oh gosh, I wasn't working here then. Closer to 200,000?
200, so double?
Yeah.
Is what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe more than that.
I would think online would have increased since COVID, and I'm just curious what those numbers were pre as well.
Yeah, so our website is only a small portion of our online services, right? We also have database use, e-resources, e-audiobooks, e-books, other ways of communicating with people, other social media, et cetera, et cetera. So we are communicating with people a lot more online, but the website's just a tiny part of that.
Okay.
So yeah.
Just a note from citizens. I know I had a lady call me several times, really unhappy that programs weren't running. So are all programs up and running now?
Back to normal.
Perfect.
Everything's, well, close to normal. We're down one staff member in programming for children, but things are going full throttle. And being subscribed to, we have to register for certain programs, or people have to register for certain programs. Registration filled up to capacity within a very short period of time after posting them. So
very good to hear.
Yeah,
thank you.
It's exciting.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I do have Councillor Berg in the queue, but I did have a question and then I got a whisper. So I'm going to ask my question because I think it's relevant to what motion that may be coming forward. So in regards to having a county councillor sit on the board instead of an MD councillor, do we have to change our terms of reference or our bylaws to that because it doesn't actually specify a county councillor?
It does specify that currently that you have an MD of Greenview person. So yeah, if you want to change, right? Am I saying the right thing, Amanda? Okay, yes. I'm nodding and smiling.
Okay, well, I find it weird because I used to sit on the library board, and when I was recollecting, I was like, wait, no, I never saw a county member there.
No.
But I knew that they're a good funder of the Grande Prairie Public Library as well. So
yeah.
I just thought
Yeah.
they would have been in there. So
Yeah.
looks
no.
like we got a little bit of work, and that's what I got tapped on the shoulder for on our city clerk. So thank you for that. Now I'm going to hand it over to Councillor Berg.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Deb. It's still one of my favorite places to go in the city and try to get in there fairly regularly. I did have the one question. You've answered it. So if it's okay with the chair, I'd like to make the motion. Committee direct administration to bring forward an amendment to the Grande Prairie Library Board bylaw, replacing the MD of Greenview representative with a County of Grande Prairie representative / councillor.
Okay, that motion is in order and is exactly what it is in our e-scribe. But I just did notice that Mayor Clayton has her hand up, so I will I'll allow the motion to stand. I'm not sure if this is to deal with the motion or if it's a further question, but take it away, Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chairman. I'm happy to vote on the motion and then just ask that the delegation stick around for one further question.
Okay. All right. So I guess we can, since the motion's on the table, Mayor Clayton still has her question. She's just going to hold that in the queue while we vote on this motion. Feel like we should have Jeopardy music. Thanks, Mike. And that motion passes. Ms. Kreiderman, it's rare that we actually take care of business while a delegation is sitting at the table, but there you are.
Look at
There we
that.
go. Mayor Clayton has a question for you.
Certainly.
Thanks for that. Could you tell me in regards to the number of visits, do you keep track of unique visitors? I'd be interested to know, is it a passionate group of library users that continually use the library? Are you seeing new users come? So the unique visits would be an important statistic for me, and I'm curious if you keep track of that.
We kind of keep track of that in sort of a way. What we do for visits is we have a door counter. So we know total how many people who come into the library. When we can pinpoint unique visits is when new people get a library membership. Now, you don't have to have a membership to use the library. You can just come in and use the library. You can spend all day there. People do spend all day there. But when we see that with new memberships, and I just walking by the library, my office is hidden away and secluded away from the front desk. But just walking by the front desk yesterday, I saw 3 new people signing up for a library card. So there are unique visits, and people are coming back, the people who've had memberships that have lapsed, and they're returning to us. So we see a wide variety.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. So another quick scan. I see no hands up. Oh, is that a hand? No, he's scratching his eyebrow, Mr. Laners. Thank you very much, Ms. Kreiderman, for coming in. Always great to see you and great to hear all the great work that the library is doing. Can I say great one more time?
Sure.
You're great.
Yeah, you guys are great too.
Have a glorious day. Thanks again. All right, so moving right along, we're getting to reports, and so it's this portion that I will just turn it over to our new Community Services Director, Mr. Arlen Miller, former CAO.
Jeez. Thanks, Chair Thiessen. So I'll start off with Community Knowledge Campus, and at Eastlink Center, the Vertical Limit Volleyball Club held the volleyball tournament on the weekend of March 5th and 6th at Eastlink, plus St. Joe's as well, and it reportedly went very well. And Eastlink Center's also seen an increase in foot traffic and membership sales, so that's good news. With events and entertainment over at Bennett Center, Rogers Hometown Hockey is making a stop in Grande Prairie on March 26th to the 28th. And the event brings the magic of the NHL to Grande Prairie with free entertainment and an interactive festival on March 26th and 27th in the West parking lot. On March 28th, the city will host Sportsnet's Ron McLean and Tara Sloan as they broadcast the Vancouver Canucks versus St. Louis Blues from the Bennett's Energy Center. Tickets are free and they're available at bennetsenergycenter.com or at hometownhockey.com. And then switching to Dave Barr Community Center, the ice has now been removed and the rink is being converted to a dryland rental facility for ball hockey season, which starts on April 1st. And then switching to facilities, corporate facilities management, some good news to share. The heat exchanger tube bundle, which has now been manufactured, and is expected to be shipped from Ontario to Grande Prairie this week. So that's really good news, and should be installed as soon as possible. Yeah, so hot showers on their way soon, we're hoping. And then with MCC, the engineering review and site drainage remediation has been put out to tender at the RCMP detachment. The building control system conversion to reliable controls is now complete. And they're also doing the site remediation project, which is a front walkway area, and it's out to tender right now. And then with fleet, they're prepping all the parks and transportation equipment so it's ready for spring use. With sports development, wellness, and culture, the online recreation system update was completed ahead of schedule. And online registration for spring programs has begun or resumed. And the feedback from the community so far has been very positive. Summer camp program registration is now live. And stakeholder engagement sessions for the recreation and culture strategy begin next week. To date, over 1,000 surveys have been completed and returned for analysis. And the city has also submitted a letter of intent to be considered for the host for the 2024 Alberta Winter Games. Then over to transit, work on the paratransit and on-demand software project is underway with our vendor. And then accessible transit customer appreciation events, which is a trip to the Philip J. Currie Museum for our clients, started on March 11th, and it'll run for the next 4 weekends. So, and that's my report, Mr. Chair, unless there's any questions.
That's it, eh? Wow, your staff is working hard, and I think you might have been cracking the whip too, but good job by everyone. I have a couple of questions in the queue. I do see Mayor Clayton's hand still up. I'm not sure if that's up from her previous. No, she's waving me off. All right, so I'll hand it over to Grant Berg.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. So my question for Director Miller, with the heat exchange, I know we've been without one for a little while, and in the back of my mind, and it might be a different unit altogether, but did we order 2 of these to have one on standby? Because I know that there was only 2 manufacturers in the world, and we had some delays. So I recall something where we ordered a backup. Is this what it was?
Through the chair, our plan initially was if it was going to be constructed of the same material, we planned on ordering 2, but they were able to get stainless steel for the manufacturing process. So my understanding, and we just have one on the way, but if we do have problems in the future, it can be repaired locally.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Awesome. And I see no other questions, so I'll just follow up that one, Director Miller. Oh, wow, that was a good one. Okay. With that heat exchange unit, when do we anticipate it'll be up and ready and people can be hot showering in the Eastlink Centre?
Well, our understanding is it is on its way from Ontario. It should arrive this week. I know Mr. Phillips and Mr. Brown, or our staff for certain, were in touch with the contractor so that upon its arrival, the contractor should be on site to do the installation as quickly as possible.
Hot dang. Awesome. Thank you so much. Councillor Blackmore.
I still find it confusing that fleet is in your bailiwick, but with the coming of spring, are we going to see like a full fleet of street sweepers, or are they going to be like as rare a sighting as a rainbow unicorn?
Through the chair, I can comment on that. The last couple of years, our fleet department and transportation have worked really well together, and in advance of the season coming, they've been doing the preparation work on the street sweepers. So I believe we have 4 street sweepers, and the last couple of years they've been on the road. They've been available, mechanically fit, I'd say at least 95% of the time. So if transportation has staff to operate, they are available. But I believe Mr. Carroll has been on board as well to make sure that they staff accordingly, and they'll be out and about as much as possible.
Just to follow that up, I don't think that there could be an excess of street sweeping in Grande Prairie.
Well, grab your brooms, Councillor Blackmore. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm not going to comment on what Councillor Lahners just said, but we do have a 4-year budget coming up too. We could always put that in the docket. But any further questions from my council colleagues? Seeing none, Director Miller, you're off the hook. Thanks so much for all the great work that you and your team do. All right, moving right along. to the man sitting right beside you, Mr. Steve Harvard, has got some transit facility improvements that we're going to discuss next.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. As the committee has had the opportunity to read the report, I will provide a high-level synopsis and take questions afterwards. As noted in the report, this topic has been addressed by each of the transit master plans since 2004. In each report, the observations were similar in that current downtown hub located at Town Centre Mall was reaching its capacity limit for buses and that the amenities for both customers and operators were inadequate. As the current location is on private land and the amount of space is restricted, there are limited opportunities to make significant improvements. Improved signage is scheduled to be part of the transit redesign when that is implemented. In addition, the following items can also be implemented, each of which would improve the customer convenience and comfort. Installing 2 larger shelters. These could either be heated or non-heated. Installing 4 new benches. And the approximate cost of those items would be $100,000. The costs do not include the amount to energize the shelters. We're still waiting for quotes on that work. Transit has an existing capital project dedicated for shelters and stops with sufficient funding to accommodate these costs. The recommendation to committee is to approve the procurement of 2 heated shelters and 4 new benches for the Town Centre Mall Transit Hub. Take questions.
Thank you, Mr. Harvard. I have at least 2. I have Councillor Lainers and then Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Mr. Harvard. I'm a little bit nervous about the power thing, because if you don't know where we're getting it from, what are your initial musings? Are you going to try and steal it off of streetlights, or are you going to go off that? Well, we're selling that other building across the street, so it's probably not make sense to go off their power. But what were you thinking?
Through the chair, the initial reports that we've received are there are 2 potential locations that we could draw power from. One is adjacent to the city on 99th, and the other one would be further away. But we're just waiting for the costs of those. So it's not ridiculously far, but still it would be a significant cost.
What's your guess? Have any ideas? Are we talking 20,000 or 200,000?
Oh, through the chair. Oh my goodness. I would hate to hazard a guess, but if I had to, I would probably say somewhere in the $30,000 to $40,000. But once I get that information, I will certainly pass it on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lainers. Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. I'm happy to hear about these heated shelters. You know, we live in a northern community. Quality of life has to account for something when you live this far north. And when someone is standing at a bus stop for 5 minutes at -30 or 20 minutes, it's significant. And yes, there's a cost to it, but quality of life, I think in this case, is more important. So I'm happy to hear that we're looking at 2 heated shelters and some benches. And, you know, taking transit generally in the summer is fine, but in winter, I think it's a whole different ballgame when you have to go outside like that.
Thank you, Councillor Bosch. Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. Mr. Harvard, well, I guess what I'm wondering, we were discussing relocating that Town Centre Mall facility to somewhere else. So I'm assuming that with this proposal, that is no longer a short or medium term option?
Mr. Harvard.
Through the chair. Historically, there have been attempts to relocate this the transit hub, even prior to my joining the city. And in many cases, there just could not be a decision made on the proper location for a lot of different reasons. And I think that looking at the history of this, I concur with you that this is a short to medium range. The amount of space that we currently have there will accommodate the number of buses that we need within our new transit redesign. But I still feel that you know, and I agree with the reports that we've had in previous years, is that the city should be, looking in the mid to long term at a new facility that is transit specific and that includes more and better amenities for both the customers and the transit operators.
Great, thanks. So then with that assumption too, I would, if in the long term we find a new location, this will still be an active bus stop.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mr. Berg, Mr. Harvard. I have Councillor Bressie in the queue. Councillor Bressie.
Great. Thank you, Chair Thiessen, and thank you, Mr. Harvard, for your work on this. I think it really is important that, especially if we're having people get off most routes at Town Center Mall, it's really important that it's a good place for them to stay. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. These would be electrically heated?
Mr. Harvard?
Through the chair, that's correct, yes.
Great. And has there been any consideration put towards better lighting for the area or things like that to make it feel safer?
Mr. Harvard?
Through the chair, the shelters themselves will have lights inside of them.
Awesome. And I guess just my comment I'd have is the two concerns I've got with people having to get off their routes downtown is the cold, the winter. This addresses this. But I also have had people in the community say they just don't feel safe when they're waiting at Town Center Mall. And to be really clear, I'm not aware of any data from our policing that shows that they're actually unsafe, but they've got that perception of it. And I'm hoping that perception goes away as we just get more traffic there and as we have more buses there and there's just more legitimate eyes there. I hope it feels a lot safer. But I think that if that perception is still there throughout this winter, we should be looking at, are there opportunities to put in cameras? Are there opportunities to put in a call for help button? Or are there opportunities to put in even more lighting that'll be on the shelters? So I would just hope that if there's electricity being run, that we'd oversize it if necessary and make sure we can power more than just those shelters if we have a desire to. It's probably not that expensive to oversize a little bit, but it's sure expensive to redo work like that. So I just hope that potential future use of this site is considered when we are servicing it.
Awesome. Thanks for those comments, Councillor Bressie. I guess my question is for you, Mr. Harvard. It wasn't one of my original ones, but Councillor Lehner's brought up a great point. How soon would we know where we're electrifying these heated shelters and what the costs associated might be? Whether we do it the Bressie way and we upsize it or otherwise, how soon can council know?
Well, Chair Thiessen, I believe this information is really imminent. We have reached out to ATCO and the city's electrical contractors, and I know that they have had a preliminary meeting, so I'm just waiting for the dollar figures to come in and the specifics. But yes, I expect that within the next few weeks easily.
Okay, and just a quick question in regards to different alternative types of electrification. I've seen in some American cities that their heated transit shelters are actually solar powered, or they pipe in the heat somewhere else. But I know that at least the lights are running and it's warm inside. They got blowers and everything happening there. Have we looked into perhaps like just having a self-contained unit, like a solar powered like bus stop that runs off of that?
Chair Thiessen, that has not been looked at all, and what we're doing currently is to continue with the same vendor that we've been using for the two heated shelters that have been installed, the one at GPRC and the one at Eastlink.
Okay, awesome, thank you. And I think I have Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. I'd like to just get on with this, and this transit plan has been in and out for 18 years. Surely we can get two heated shelters done and completed in short order. So I'd like to make a motion that committee recommend council approve the procurement and installation of two heated shelters and 4 new benches for the Town Center Mall Transit Hub. And in saying this, we do have the money for it at this point. If and when we do redesign, these can be moved to another location if that happens to be the need. So I don't think it's a waste of money. And I think the public who use the transit system absolutely need to be looked after as far as heat and lighting and accessibility to transit that is comfortable.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Councillor Bosch. That motion is in order as written, and thank you for speaking to it as well. I'll look if there's any further discussion or debate. Seeing some, I have Mayor Clayton.
Thanks for that, Chair Thiessen. I will support this motion, and I think that it is an initiative that previous councils have indicated was a priority, and I'm glad to see it finally come to fruition. I do also think that it's something that council should observe as we see these heated shelters in operation, that we think of consideration for other locations, as mentioned by Mr. Harvard. Eastlink Center and or GPRC are two great candidates for additional heated shelters. So although if there was a interest of a permanent replacement transit shelter, a true terminal hub, these heated shelters could be moved. I think that there should be consideration given for additional heated shelters around the community. I know, for example, that Charles Spencer students that take the bus have approximately a 30-minute wait from when they get out of school to when they get on the bus. And so the expectation can't always be that either GPRC students or Charles Spencer students or other students wait in the cold, or that they wait in the school, because it's not always appropriate. So something to keep on our radar. I'm optimistic that these shelters work very well, and that they're a great solution for our as an addition to our transit system. They're a great solution to get us through the winter season. So I'm looking forward to them being installed, and looking forward and optimistic that they're very successful. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you very much for those words, Mayor Clayton. Yeah, I've been a big advocate for satellite bus shelters spread out throughout the community pretty much before I got elected on council. So it seems like we're moving a little bit in that direction. I see Councillor Bressy's hand is still up. Is that from the previous question? No?
Yeah, sorry about that, Councillor Thiessen. I'm good. Thank you.
It's not like you to skip out on a comment there, Councillor Bressy, but we do have a motion on the floor, so I will call it to question. Thank you. That motion passes unanimously. All right, moving on to our other business. We have item 3.3, Ball Diamond Priorities Policy 213. I think we have Miss Katie Bieberdorf here to present on behalf of Sports, Culture, and Recreation. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. In 2015, a South Bear Creek user guidelines procedure was developed to outline usage guidelines, operating times, and tournament processes for South Bear Creek Park. No formal policy was developed at this time. The new Ball Diamond Priorities Policy has been developed to support equitable use of ball diamonds across the city, accommodating a wide range of user groups, including schools, fast pitch, slow pitch, and minor league programs. The policy has also been aligned with the ice booking priorities policy for a consistent approach with user groups using city recreation amenities. The procedure has also been updated and reflects ball diamonds in general rather than just South Bear Creek, and we incorporated feedback from the fastball presentation to prioritize youth play at specific diamonds. So administration is requesting that committee recommend council approve policy 213, the ball diamond priorities policy.
Wow, you delivered that like an old pro there, Ms. Bieberdorf. Thank you very much for the report, the high-level overview. And I'll look to council for questions. I have Councillor Berg and Councillor Laners.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. So, Ms. Bieberdorf, is the reason for this a number of user groups are having conflicts requesting the same times and the same dates?
Through the chair, yes, that's part of it. And the other part was that the procedure went forward in 2015 without a policy, so we wanted to attach a policy to the procedure.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you, Councillor Berg. Councillor Laners.
Yeah, I saw one of the embedded attachments that to play to rent. Yeah, you need to show that you have $5 million in public liability insurance. Is that per organization, or is that per team, or and what is the cost of that? That seems like horrendous, but maybe it's not. I know in my world it's expensive, but you know, I make a lot more mistakes probably than they do. So.
Thank you for that question through the chair. So the $5 million liability is for the organizations that are putting on large leagues, and it covers those who are maybe have alcohol permits for large tournaments as well. So it's not for your average family going out to book a ball diamond. It's for the user groups, and it's a pretty standard rate for sport organizations to pay $5 million.
Okay. Okay, because as I'm just wondering if our insurance doesn't cover users. I know in the school board, if there's children that have, or people get hurt on our sites or whatever, that our liability insurance covers those individuals. But you're saying ours, we don't particularly cover that in our insurance policy?
Through the chair, that's my understanding from our risk management coordinator. The recommendations came from her. I can revisit it if you'd like me to, though.
What's that? Yeah, I would like to find out if what it would be for us to have that rider on our policy, as opposed to having 20 or 30 different organizations trying to run around and get insurance companies to find that out, and see what that obligation would look like.
It is an interesting idea. My understanding is most of these fast pitch, slow pitch, and organizations, they have their own insurance that comes with playing outside, and it covers them across the board, even for their own rentals. So when they rent a field, most organizations, if they're already established not-for-profits, they already have that liability insurance attached. It's just a matter of showing proof that it's there. And as someone who used to run large festivals, I used to have to pay that to the city as well. To get my $5 million typically cost me about $750 a year. So it was worth the small pittance to ensure that in case anything went wrong, that it was covered. But unfortunately, Mr. Laners, you don't have a say on this committee. But if you can get one of the other members to make a motion to have that go forward, then we can certainly do that for you. Otherwise, I'll be looking for a motion, but first I'll be looking for a question from Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Councillor Thiessen. This kind of comes in line with Councillor Lehner's questions, but somewhat different. So I'm not sure this is the place to put it in policies or not, but we're talking about organizations and booking and everything that comes with that. Do we have anything in our policies as the City of Grande Prairie to make sure that we have policies and procedures set in place for people who come and watch? And so such things like accessibility for people, access and accessibility, or for the viewers coming to watch all of these games. So that kind of falls in place with the insurance question, but not. Does that make sense?
Well,
we're liable to some degree when somebody comes in to watch all these games. Are we set up through our policies and procedures for all kinds of circumstances?
No spectator insurance.
Yeah. And are we ready for them? Do we have accessible trails and paths and seating and everything?
That second part's a bit different. I'll let you answer the first question. Do we have spectator insurance like around our fields and arenas?
Yes, thank you. That would be covered through the city's general liability policy. And as far as the other question, I might defer to Director Glavin from a parks perspective for trails and accessibility.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Director Glavin, I'm pretty sure that we don't insure people for walking hazards on our walking paths, but
no, that's not my question.
Okay.
I'm not looking for insurance for people walking. I'm looking at making sure that there is access and accessibility so that the public can go watch these organizations and people play or be a part of a community event. So is that a policy where we make sure that things are accessible, or is it not? I don't know where this fits. It's just a question.
Well, I'm gonna say that the question is a good conversation, but I don't know if it's relevant to the topic at hand right now. When we're talking about accessibility for people being able to go to events or to watch pitches, right now what we're talking about is a policy on diamond usage, which I don't know if it would talk about the accessibility or how we build and determine how people get there. But it is something to talk about for a community mobility plan, perhaps at a future workshop somewhere. Councillor Berg.
Councillor Keeson?
And then Mayor Clayton.
Oh, she can go first.
Mayor Clayton first.
Thank you for that. Councillor Bosch, I think that your question, if you're looking for additional information, could easily be answered through an email. I suggest that you send that to CAO Nicolay. He could get you the information in regards to liability at city facilities. In regards to spectators, though, Ms. Bieberdorf did respond that yes, our general liability insurance would cover spectators.
Thanks for that, Mayor Clayton. Councillor Berg.
Yeah, I just want to speak to the comments of Councillor Lainers. I guess this would be far more encompassing than just the ball diamonds. It would be Eastling Center, every hockey rink, everything like that. So I think all of these organizations do need their own liability insurance regardless. So I think it's something we can kind of maybe talk offline. That's my thoughts. But I think that regardless, across the province or across Canada, they all have to have some form of insurance and not necessarily rely on ours. So I just wanted to comment on that. Thanks.
Yeah, no, and that's a valid comment. Most organizations have their own liability insurance to do events and stuff like that for this, especially in the sports. So I'm just looking for a motion. If there's no further questions or comments for administration, Councillor Burke.
Yeah, I'd like to move that committee recommend council approve policy 213, the ball diamond priorities policy.
Awesome. That motion is in order. I will look for any discussion or debate. See none online, see none inside, so I'll call the question. Those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Bieberdorf. And yeah, it looks like you're going to get a few emails sent your way perhaps in the future. Cool. She's ready for it. All right. With that being said, we are getting to the end of this meeting here, and that leads us back to Director Miller for the outstanding items list.
All right. Thanks, Chair Thiessen. Just before I comment on the oil, I would like to just say thanks to Ms. Casually for looking after business while I was in the interim city manager role, and also to all the managers on the community services side and all the staff that looked after business while I was working closely with council. So. And in regards to the oil, we everything is on track, and the last item on the list, 1162, was addressed today by Mr. Harvard. So if we can remove that one, please, and no other changes.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Director Miller. And yes, thank you again to Ms. Cajolet and all the great staff in Community Services Department. So I'll look for a motion. I see Councillor Bosch for question or comment or motion.
No, I'll just do the motion for you. I move that committee receive the March 15, 2022 outstanding items list as amended for information.
And that motion is in order. Discussion, debate, seeing none, call the question. And that motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone. I will call this meeting adjourned. And what are we looking for? 5 minutes, lunch break? What are 2 minutes? All right. I'll see you in 2 minutes. I'll be filling in for Councillor O'Toole as chair. He's going to run it? How's he going to see people? Are you sure, Kev? I'm going to call you in the 2 minutes here. We'll figure it out.